Dag en nacht.
Het is 25 maart 2026 en dit is de Rode Lantaarn met de serie What the Fuck over data in het wielrennen.
Welkom bij de Rode Lantaarn, de gezelligste en nieuwsgierigste wielerpodcast van de Lage Landen. We moesten ons maar eens wat meer verdiepen in data in het wielrennen, dachten wij. Wielerromantici, natuurlijk. Maar we willen ook graag de sport waar we uren en uren en uren naar kijken beter begrijpen. En om data kun je nu eenmaal niet meer heen.
Ja, we willen echt een drieluik maken, Maike. Dit is de tweede. En waar praten we dan over? Nou, wat kan data ons nu al voorspellen? Willen we dat wel? Hoe zijn ploegen met data bezig? En wat kan er nog niet? Kan het echt het verloop van koersen bepalen? En heb je er als bankzitter ook wat aan?
Zeer belangrijk. We hebben inderdaad al 1 aflevering hiervoor gemaakt. Dat was met Gabriel en Carlies. Dat waren zijn twee wattage-nerds die echt een heleboel hot takes hadden. Luister die aflevering vooral terug. Vandaag te gast Patrick Broe.
Ja, Patrick Broe. Dat is, je kent hem waarschijnlijk wel van de Lanterne Rouge Cycling Podcast. Sponsored by Swift.
Bij Swift.
Zoals hij jarenlang gezegd heeft.
Of hun YouTube-analyses of de weblog die ze schrijven over data in het wielrennen. Hij is jurist uit Brisbane.
Ja, hij is oorspronkelijk jurist inderdaad. En in 2020, zo konden wij in interviews met hem lezen, midden in COVID begon hij video's te maken met koersanalyse. En dat leidde uiteindelijk tot de Lanterne Rouge Cycling Podcast. En toch een beetje een soort van franchise van ons.
Ja, we verdienen er niks aan, maar leuk is het wel. Hij en Benji, die ook eerder bij ons te gast is geweest. Benji Naassen, een hele leuke gast uit België. Zijn een tijdje iets meer op afstand verbonden geweest. Gaven ze advies aan Visma, toen nog Jumbo-Visma denk ik. Maar inmiddels bemoeit Patrick zich met een heleboel. En is hij zelfs head of strategy in een 5-koppige leiding van Visma. Is dat naast Robert de Groot, Mathieu Heijboer, Grisha Niemann en Jacco Verharen. Ja. En hij is dus eigenlijk hoofdverantwoordelijke voor hoe de fuck ze Pogačar gaan verslaan.
Ja, dat willen we van hem weten. En we willen eigenlijk ook van hem weten hoe Visma dan data gebruikt. En hoe het is om als buitenstaander ineens in het peloton te zitten bij een ploeg.
Kloppen zijn datasetjes eigenlijk wel.
Ja, en we zijn ook benieuwd hoe zich dat verhoudt tot de vorige gesprekken die we gevoerd hebben met Gabriel en Carlies. We spreken hem in het Engels, want het is een Australiër met een zwaar Australisch accent. Laten we beginnen.
Veel plezier.
Patrick, welcome. Very good to speak to you. We really appreciate listening to your show. I was curious, do you sometimes wonder how come I ended up being a cycling strategist while you were educated as a lawyer, I think?
Sometimes, yeah. It's very strange, like the way my life has turned out and the job I'm working in now, but it wasn't completely unintentional. I loved playing sports growing up. I just loved, I played 5 sports a year, played cricket at a good level, and then through university I supported myself financially by coaching cricket and basketball almost every day, sometimes twice a day. So
just on the field or also like online?
No, like hands-on, like traditional coaching of like youth sports teams, in particularly cricket. And yeah, that was really fun. It was better than working as a laborer, as a physical laborer during the summer, which I sometimes had to do. So I realized coaching sports is pretty fun and a bit more flexible. But then I started, had a real job for a while. That was good experience, but also maybe not something I envisioned doing when I was 50. So I wanted to try to work in sports in some capacity. So working in cycling specifically, it's a bit surprising, but working in sports was always something I wanted to do.
When did you find some interest in cycling? When did it start?
When Cadel won the Tour de France. Of course, before Sky did.
Were you a big Cadel Evans fan?
Not really. It was a bigger deal than an Australian one. And then I started university, and cycling is the perfect sport to watch if you're a university student in Australia. So, because it's like starts at 10:30 at night and you watch it till 1:30 in the morning.
Yeah, we have one of our hosts, Jonna, also lives this way, but still on our time zone, so a bit weird.
Okay.
So who's your favorite Australian cyclist?
Oh, good question.
All time?
All time. Seb Berwick, because I'm friends with him. But
right.
Probably Jay Vine.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Richie Port. I like to have favorites that, that maybe not everything went perfect for them. Like Richie Port had a great career, made a lot of money, won big races, raced for big teams. Same with Cadell. So I like sometimes the undercover guys. Matt Heyman, winning Roubaix.
Yeah,
that was pretty special. That doesn't happen anymore. So that's also, to think back, that's 10 years ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
That just, the idea that would happen, that, I don't know, pick...
A random guy just wins.
I'm trying to think of it. He was good always in Roubaix, but yeah, I'm trying, like Max Walscheid destroys Van der Poel in the final this year.
Sounds fun. And what about Jay Vine? What's to like? Tell us a bit more, because we don't know him that well.
Oh, he just got disrespected despite good results, because he had like the moniker or the stigma that he was a Zwifter, even though he raced mountain bike competitively and was getting better results despite the crashes that should have earned him serious World Tour interest, and he had to battle through that, get better and better and better results, and then now he's like, second in World's TT last year, top 25 rider. So I just saw firsthand that, he and Bree didn't have any help really. They did it themselves, and that was really inspiring.
Oh, yeah.
So he really had a hard time by the stigma, you say?
Well, some cycling's also, it's not all merits based. Some riders get contracts because of who they're friends with, because of their nationality, because they just had the right result in front of the right director at the right time. But otherwise, they might not have got that contract. And it was it was surprising, even after winning 2 Vuelta stages, one from the GC group. People are like, is he a good cyclist? Like, I don't know, maybe.
Yes, it's a world where your contacts are very important, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
But just for an introduction for our audience, so you're an Australian living in Andorra right now. Am I right?
Yeah.
And how come you moved to Andorra? Was it for the sport?
So I had to move to Europe to cover the sport for the podcast, and then it was during peak COVID. And so Andorra was was the best place to move to. Lots of cyclists living here. Jack Haig, actually, he was the one that recommended that I come here. He said, come to Andorra, it's the best spot. Loads of cyclists around, and taxes are good, obviously. Like, let's not pretend they don't exist. And
well, they don't exist, right?
No, it's 10%. It's not
okay.
And so about Lanterne Rouge is the brand basically that you start, because we know it from the podcast. Lots of our listeners also listen to your show, also because of the similar name, of course. People get confused all the time. But it's not only a podcast. It started originally maybe as a YouTube channel. Can you explain a little bit to us about what the relationship is between the podcast, the YouTube channel, and the site?
Yeah, so I was inspired by some YouTube channels covering American sports. John Boy Media's one covers baseball. There was Coach Daniel, very small basketball channel, and they covered like the intricacies or the sort of more an analytical approach to video of sports events. And I thought, why couldn't cycling have this instead of a basic summary like, and then there was an attack here, and then the race finished. Also, like Cosmo Catalano was also doing that, called How the Race Was Won, American. And yeah, I just thought I'd have a crack at it. I watched a lot of cycling. I was a full degenerate at that point. I watched every race, and I thought, wouldn't it be great to look at how Luca Paolini won Gent-Wevelgem and how the phases of the race played out. And so I was doing maybe older races at the time. I just looked back at what did Chris Froome's first victory look like? What did Geraint Thomas Classics version of Geraint Thomas look like before he became a GC rider? Or Sagan when he was really skinny on liquid gas, when he could climb with GC guys and never did Liège. So yeah, I just like doing them. And then I realized, why not, when COVID hit, why not start a podcast? Because there was all this pent up enthusiasm. We'd had no races until August. It was actually the perfect time to launch a cycling podcast because you had 3 Grand Tours in 10 weeks.
Yeah.
And so I knew Benji from online. I'd never met Benji in person. The Benji Nelson, who's been on the show, is the co-host of LRCP with me. And we were like, let's just do it. Let's start a podcast. Let's start with Britannia Classic. And we just hit it off. I just thought, we'll just do the full season, see what happens.
All online, right? For the first period. How long did it take for you and Benji to meet in real life?
Quite a while, probably a year and a half, because I was in Australia. Then there was COVID, still like peak lockdowns at that period. Yeah. So quite a while.
And Gabriel and Carlise that we spoke to on the podcast, do you have anything to do with them, or is that completely separate from what you guys are doing?
No. So Gabriel and Carlos I knew from then the online community around Lanterne Rouge. They were fans of the videos, and then they joined. We were in the same Discord server talking about cycling all day because obviously, I watch all the races. I'm talking about cycling all the time. And then they started working on, or Gabriel started working on, like how to analyze climbing performances differently. And we would always brainstorm that, again, borrowing from American sports. So why can't we have, like baseball did, why can't we have better statistics in cycling to really, what is a good climbing performance? Is it because you won? Or is there another way to quantify it? And so then I wanted to launch a website to like have sort of written articles. Carlos was writing, he was writing for Lanterne Rouge Media on that. Gabriel was creating the database and also working for Lanterne Rouge, which was giving the content for those articles. And Carlos, he's doing his own thing now with agency. He's doing really well. And Gabriel I'm still working with. Yeah.
And so let's move on to data and cycling.
And maybe a little bridge in between, because we'll talk about Visma Lease a Bike a bit longer when we discuss data and how it's used in the teams. But you're still maintaining both the site and the podcast and the YouTube channel, and you're working for Visma Lease a Bike.
Yeah.
I know you get a lot of questions about this, and I also I listen every episode you and Benji make, and I'm always like really listening extra well when you talk about Visma. It seems a bit hard to have. We say in Dutch, both hats on, to switch hats. How do you maintain this? How do you do it?
Well, I guess anything in public domain, I can talk about from a team perspective. So if you see Visma stuff up the race in Dwarsdorp-Vlaanderen last year, it wasn't good, was it?
It wasn't good. We had like almost crying Nathan van Hooijdonk here in the studio.
Well, it wasn't good. So, it'd be stupid if I got on there and say, really, we should look at two sides of the story. I mean, so if it's in public domain, or if a rider is, if it's publicly known, I can talk about it. And then obviously, if there's stuff I wouldn't know if I wasn't working for the team, I don't speak about it, because if I was just a podcaster, I wouldn't know it in the first place. So if a rider right now if a rider was coming into a race, he's been a bit sick, but he's still doing the race, and I know that, I don't mention it unless he himself or it's publicly known that he is sick. And I guess that is how it is. It's been like that since 2022 now. I'm used to it. And of course, if people are entitled to not like it, and if they think it somehow worsens the show, perhaps, then I mean that's fair enough. But I try to stay as balanced as possible. And to be honest, I'm still like I'm still a fan of the sport, and luckily part of my job for Visma is also to not be in the day-to-day every day and, talking to every rider every second of the day, being in the races. I rarely go to the races.
So Visma maybe acknowledges that like a bit more outside view, and having this both jobs can maybe bring some extra to the team.
Yeah, that was the point in the first place, to have someone who's also not from cycling, not from Europe, and then also I'm not in the race every day with the riders too. I think that's also the idea, just to give a bit of a different view on things.
Okay.
Yeah. So I read somewhere, Patrick, that you created your own database and where you put in like almost 9,000 riders, I think, where you keep track of their performances everywhere, and you have your own scouting machine. Did you start with that before you joined the team, or was that something you were doing for fun, or did you do that purposely for Visma?
Yeah, that already existed before working for the team.
What did you do? Why did you do that?
Well, that was with Gabriel. To just understand how to be able to compare different climbing performances. So, for example, like in baseball, you have different size ballparks. It's not standardized like a football pitch. And so you have to normalize how good a home run hitter is based on if he's hitting it over a 300-foot fence or a 400-foot fence. And cycling, I wanted to be able to compare how good is the performance of Paul Seixas in Algarve on Mayal. How good is that compared to Vingegaard against Lenny Martinez in Paris-Nice? And I mean, you can eye test it. You can, that was a stronger competition, but that's real gut feel. And there had to be a way to, do that from like an objective data perspective. And that's using climbing estimations, which, Gabriel's worked on for putting the database together for 5 years, 6 years. And then working with Visma, we've been able to create then internally with them more metrics, because we have access to power data, more ways of looking at the race. Because obviously in a classics, it's really easy to do a climbing estimation for a 20 kilometer, 7% alpine climb. Yeah. It's pretty straightforward. Anyone can do it. But classics are a lot harder to estimate when they're going left, right, up, down.
It's intervalling the whole day, right? So Carlise and Gabriel told us. Are you a bit further in analyzing these data?
In the classics?
Yeah.
Compared to 3-4 years ago, I'd say so. But the sport is changing and evolving really, really fast. I would say the understanding of Jay Vine's a good story, because Jay Vine on Alpecin in year one, I think now he would have been picked up by one of the 6 big teams straight away, because the level of sophistication in analyzing performances has improved across all teams.
So when you started a few years ago, now a lot of more teams are on board using data in their analysis and scouting.
I think so, yeah. I think it's not optional. You can't just like gut feel your way through a season. And, look at Astana. Yeah, they changed bike and equipment. That helped. Yeah, they probably had an injection of cash. That, of course, helps. But it's obvious that Astana started to work in a different way when they were facing relegation, and they employed a non-cycling person. They employed a data scientist, French guy, I think. And he's got no credit for it, by the way, but he completely changed their calendar and the way they were doing things. Plus, I think then certain coaches get more, when there's a crisis, coaches that maybe have new ideas get the chance to put them into action. And maybe that also happened at Astana.
And so what did you find when you arrived at Visma? Were they already using data, or was it a new technology for them?
I think Visma's always been really strong in they actually act on data. Whether it was sophisticated at the time compared to maybe what Liverpool had built or a baseball team, maybe not, but actually acting on data, the team already did. And Moraine, and not just Moraine, but Mathieu, the head of performance, Grisha, they wanted to make data-based decisions, whatever the best data was available. And I think that's almost more important than having the best data. There's been cycling teams, there's football teams that have the best, absolutely world-class data infrastructure. They have like 8 people employed, they got models, they got this. If the management don't actually take signing decisions or race decision based on that, then it's useless.
Was there something surprising that you find out joining the squad?
Surprising. I guess, at the time, how it's very, very difficult for data to influence race strategy in the race. Once the race starts, there's so many different things that can happen or could have happened. There's so much incomplete information. You don't know how a rider's feeling. You don't know how the opponents are feeling. Don't know if the wind's changed. Don't know if the weather's changed. It's really hard to, use data live in a race.
Right.
So more hard than you thought before, maybe.
They got not lucky, but because they took a risk on Roglic, and then that paid off hugely for the team, and that would have been based on data, that then created a culture that this is the way to success.
So they were a bit lucky Roglic succeeded for most parts then, that the mindset was on the right path to use data in their work.
Well, I think, if you couldn't compete with Team Sky at the time to buy Richie Porte out of his BMC contract, or to pay him after a BMC level contract to get a GC rider of that caliber, then the only way to do it is to try and be the smartest and find undiscovered talents that other people are overlooking. And I think once Roglic was signed, I think him succeeding is not lucky at all. Like, his data was just too good. He was always going to succeed. He actually could have had a better career if he didn't crash so much, or better Palmares rather. But sometimes you're forced into it, and that can be a blessing.
Ja. We gaan er even tussenuit voor de reclamecaravan, Maike. We gaan zo door met het gesprek, maar eerst even een woordje van onze sponsor.
Ja, NordVPN, natuurlijk onze vaste vrienden. Overal veilig toegang tot je favoriete streams en gebruikelijke content, waar ter wereld je ook bent.
Verander je virtuele locatie eenvoudig om toegang te krijgen tot apps en websites in andere landen. Het is dus voor 3 dingen die ik echt kan noemen. Je kan me 's nachts wakker maken. Veiligheid, anonimiteit en het belangrijkste,
doen alsof je in België bent.
Zodat je Sportzaak kan kijken, waar ook ter wereld.
Ja, want het liefst kijk je natuurlijk wielrennen met de zalvende stemmen van onze Belgische wielercommentatoren.
Profiteer nu van mega veel korting plus 4 maanden gratis.
Wow. NordVPN.com/rode lantaarn. Zoals altijd 30 dagen niet goed geld-terug-garantie. En een kortingscode rode lantaarn.
So how can we picture what you're doing during the races? Are you with a notepad on the sofa just watching races and then making notes? Or what are you doing?
I don't take notes during races. I don't think I've ever done that. I just watch them really, really closely and think about what is each team trying to do? Why are they doing certain things? What should their behavior be today if I was in that team? Because then I think I can build up a mental database of, if this rider had been used in the proper way, or what I think is the proper way, might not be, by this team, maybe they could actually get these results. And they're being held back by the way this team races. And then also building up that across the season, so that then when you get to the really big races like the Tour de France, you can look at a stage profile and say, okay, well, this team, even if they have the 4th favorite, they will control the stage. So there's no point going in the breakaway, because NSN will control for Binny. They've shown they have done that throughout the season. It's totally legitimate for them to do that, whereas maybe some other teams wouldn't. So it's really looking at how the other teams are behaving, how our riders how the Visma riders are, whether they're doing the plan or not, whether what they're doing. Are they in position where they should be? Like, really watching every single rider to see what they're doing.
And you just watch it once and live, or do you play back and?
So like GP de Nain last week, really, really good race for teaching and learning, because some good things, some bad things. So that I'll watch live, and then I'll rewatch 3 times. Then I'll make a video, probably a couple of videos of that race to show, okay, when, for example, when Visma missed the second group that was in the middle in the last 20 Ks, and then they had to chase, which is obviously not ideal. Why did they miss it, and how could that have be avoided in the future? And also to talk to the riders, maybe they just couldn't follow because they're on the limit.
I was watching the Mourinho documentary, and you could see how they were after games, football games. They were all the players were in one room, and they have like a little cinema, and they're watching back the games. And then he points out some stuff that they want to pay attention to. Is that also? Do you also get the opportunity sometimes to talk directly to the cyclists and then have them all in a room and then discuss together?
All in a room, normally just for the big races. So I'll go to Tignes usually before the Tour de France, after the Dauphiné. Catalonia I'll go because this week and talk to the riders, also because it's the Giro squad, half the Giro squad or Tour de France is there, especially with the new riders. Onboarding them in how we want to race is important. Although Bruno already was doing a great job in Paris-Nice. So more working, I think, one-on-one with riders, especially because then it's easier also to give really detailed feedback on what they can do differently.
So you watch, you put it on a big screen, and then you say, "Hey, let's have a look at Grand Prix de Nain. Let's have a look at what happened between Vingegaard and Strandhagenes," and then you watch together. Is that how we should picture that?
No, more the practical reality is I'll make a video and then send it to Per.
You make there a private YouTube analysis.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Now
I don't know
we're
how
talking.
big the screen will be in the hotel in Catalonia. It might be like this big.
Now we're talking about the Nain. I'm really curious what your feelings were when watching it live, because I was really hyped but confused, and hyped and then confused again. Like they were so close to each other.
I think the mistake is not trying to drop Vingegaard.
Yeah.
It's not working with Vingegaard because of the pressure from the peloton behind. Because the reality is, even if Per drops Vingegaard, he wouldn't have won. Because the group caught him.
But why didn't he wait for a bit and ride together?
I think he got locked into it.
Just far in.
I've invested this much to drop him.
Yeah.
So I'm like pot committed. It's like the poker. I feel committed to stick with this course of action. And
it's like, how do you call it in economics? The sunken cost fallacy. Yeah.
And Patrick, so in regards to Visma, what we're hearing a lot is that Visma was very ahead of everyone a couple of years ago, and now that other teams are catching up. Is that also what you're seeing? Is there a lot of our teams getting more professional in the last couple of years?
More professional, yeah, probably. I would say there's more support staff at different teams. I think a lot of teams just internationalized and then added the best experts they could find in those domains, regardless of nationality. Luke Rowe to Decathlon is a great example. They're like, we want a classics DS to lead the classics, and he really leads it. He does the recons with them, but in winter, etc. And when it first happened, like, Luke Rowe to Decathlon, bit weird, but I think it's working out. At least you never know. But from the outside, it looks like it's working out. Astana saying they were forced to, and the reality is more teams have bigger budgets. So I'm not sure if, there's just been a creation of a bigger divide between the top teams and the smaller teams in terms of budget, and there's just more teams with a really big budget. Whether it's 6 or 7, before maybe it was 2 or 3. Now it's 6 or 7. That budget brings more staff with different backgrounds. It brings an accumulation of the best riders in those 6 teams. The smaller teams can't keep. Maxim Van Gils egos, etc. So whether it's professionalization, sure, but also there's a higher concentration, I think, of the best talent in the top 6 teams.
Ah, right. And there was this whole discussion recently when Pogačar accidentally published his power data after he was complaining on the Strava, I think, about people driving with him. And then I saw this whole discussion about zone training, and that's quite new to our listeners. And I was reading this discussion that UAE is doing a lot of zone 2 training, while Visma, for example, does a lot more peak training. Can you explain to us a little bit about that, how we should understand that?
So UAE they had a sort of 2 co-heads of performance, Jeroen Swart and Inigo San Milan. This is in 2022, let's say, 2021. Right. And the philosophy of Inigo San Milan was he looked at sport through like a metabolic lens, i.e. what's happening at the cellular level. So his philosophy, at least it appears to be, make your mitochondria, like as many mitochondria as possible, and just make the organism stronger. Or I don't know, I'm not a physiologist, but the idea was you do as much zone 2 training, and what he means by zone 2 is actually higher than what maybe traditional Steven Seiler zone 2 would mean.
So it's like almost over the edge, right? Where just before you need to start breathing with your mouth, maybe if you're a professional cyclist. But it's pretty hard, I understood, because I think Pogačar talked about it in a podcast once. Yeah, it's very hard to maintain this level for a long time because they were doing long rides in this zone, I understood.
So I think, UAE riders would ride on average harder than a lot of teams, but not too hard. And so still below their lactate threshold 1, whether it's fat max, whatever you want to call it, but harder than other teams were riding in winter and straight away. And then less high intensity work, it seems. So less VO2 max, less sprints. Maybe they do a little bit, but not as much as other teams. And they were also signing very similar riders. They haven't signed a new sprinter in like 4 years. They extended Milano, but after Ackermann, they didn't sign a new sprinter. They just signed guys with like decent kick, good 5-minute value, and are young.
Do you know if they're still doing their zone 2 training, or did they change it a bit as well? Yeah, okay.
But is this a big difference between teams, the way that you train with these zones?
No, not really, I don't think. Like, honestly, when you hear like Matthias Reck, the coach at Little Trek of Pedersen, I mean, Pedersen's doing 7 hour, he's doing 300 watt average rides around. But maybe, I think UAE got the jump on everyone, that maybe they did it earlier. And so this is more, people don't think of like cycling performance and team performance that can be changed in 6 weeks, for example. UAE have been building their riders up to this for maybe Brandon McNulty 5 years, with Pogačar years. And so Pogačar builds up this huge base. He gets so efficient at riding at also biomechanically very high speed, because if you're riding at 65 kilos at 320 watts everywhere, you're going very fast. You then go to the race, all your teammates have trained that way. They then start Strade Bianche, they just start riding at 360 watts. But you're comfortable because that's your training pace.
Yeah.
And then he changed trainer, and he does a little bit, maybe does heat training, which he maybe didn't do, strength training, a few other things, builds on top of that, and then he has the improvement again. It's a year-on-year thing. It's not, you can't just start doing a few more fat max intervals and like you'll be there.
So would you say data is more influential in training than in the races themselves?
Well, the riders don't look at their, well, they shouldn't, but maybe some do, but they shouldn't be just like racing on their data. They should race on feel. most of the time. And I think it's hard to say. I think both are important.
Right. And what is your opinion about cyclists like Pogačar sharing their power data on Strava? Do you also, with the team, do you allow people to post their power data? Do you encourage them to do that, or how do you look at it?
Visma riders don't share their power data
because it gives your opponents a competitive advantage over you. Is that the reason?
Yeah, especially for the classics riders. I mean, climbers. I know what Pogačar's threshold is, so pretty much within a certain range. But for a classics rider, you might not know exactly. You might not know where they're strong in 2 minutes. Could be 5 minutes, 10 minutes. You can infer it from their race results. But no, I think it's if it gives any competitive advantage, then they shouldn't share it. On the other hand, when juniors don't share their power data, I think that's a big mistake.
Why? For scouting
because they're stopping themselves getting scouted.
Yeah.
If you have two riders and I'm looking through and then I see their Strava and they did a good performance maybe in results, or they came 5th on an uphill TT, I want to see what they did, and then their power's hidden, I'm more likely to be like,
never mind. Yeah.
Yes.
But if I see their power data, I'm like, ooh, that's really good, then maybe you contact their agent or
But this is the talent scout speaking.
Yeah, that's more the junior categories where I would say you should be much less concerned about proffering up a competitive advantage to other riders.
So the data you push or the watts you push when you're a junior, you don't. Let's say you had the data of Pogačar back then. It won't matter for racing analysis now.
Nah, not really.
No,
I mean, even the data he had in 2023 is irrelevant.
And was it? How was it for you to join the peloton, basically, and you could suddenly see the actual power data of riders? Was there a big discrepancy between what Gabriel and Carlis were doing and what the actual data was? Now that you could look at it, or was it quite accurate?
Not a big discrepancy. So for the climbing performances,
were they close? Yeah,
except in TTs, I think. There you see that actually, wow, even on climbs, the TT bike is way faster and they can push less. I mean, that's why Vingegaard, it's not a secret, he did the very good TT on a TT bike, which you initially see, you're like, that cannot be optimal, but it is. If you can push the same power on the TT bike. And that's Pogačar and Del Toro, it seems on climbing, they can't push a close ratio of their road bike power as they can on the TT bikes. Whereas Remco, it's probably 1-to-1.
Oh, really?
Because he's so good on the TT bike.
So if you handle the bike well, you can push the same. That's the...
If you've like trained on it, if it's the same biomechanics that allow you to do the same performance, then yeah, you can do a climb on a TT bike and it's going to be faster if the weight is reasonable.
Has there, on some point, been a moment where you were looking at the data and you were really surprised that you really thought, oh, this a performance where the results shocked you?
Yeah, sometimes there's some riders where you're like, how did you win that stage pushing that? You didn't push, you pushed not special data. So they're either really smart, really aero, and on the other hand, there's some riders where you see their data and you're like, how did you come 6th? Like, you should have won easily.
Do you have an example of that? Because for us, it's really interesting. So how can you look at a race in a different way using data? Was there a moment that that we were all looking at the race, you looked at the data and you thought, oh, something really special happened here? Do you remember a moment like that?
More initially looking at Roglic. Like, Roglic is very, very efficient, very aero, very explosive.
Yeah.
And it's not surprising, but yeah, he can climb very, very well. And then his 30-second power is obviously unbelievable. That's why he do the Roglic teleport the 500 meters to go when he opened it on those uphill sprints.
Yeah.
It also matched the data. Trying to think of a really good performance. Yeah, Vingegaard in the Vuelta in Beches when Van Hooijdonk fell ill in 23. That was a really, really good performance.
Oh,
and you might not...
Is the one he won and the news came in about Van Hooijdonk. That one.
I think he knew the news in the morning already.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It was a crazy day.
All right.
But that's part of why, I guess, when Vingegaard says he has evidence of he can be better in a second Grand Tour after another Grand Tour, there are data points like that where, I'm not sure what the time gap was, but it was a really, really big performance.
But it's also interesting that you mentioned this example because the romantic can say he felt the need to put his all the best for his friend Nathan.
That's also true. That can also be true.
Yes, yeah. And you mentioned Roglic and his like short punch. He doesn't really have it anymore, right?
Wow, I don't know what he was doing in Milano Torino. It was bizarre.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
Because I think the way Bora did the race was really good. Like how they opened on the first climb, then had Boissy in the valley, really, really good. Great tactics. But then when Roglic started pacing at like 1,500 meters to go on the last climb, I was like, just sit in and outkick them. Because that's how he won so many races.
Yeah,
it was strange.
That's why I mentioned it, because he did like a really slow attack and it didn't feel like a Roglic attack, and it failed.
I didn't get it. But it also looks slow, but he's pushing.
Yeah, okay. Slow between...
But yeah, I agree. I was confused watching it. It was very out of character.
So when it comes to the races now, we are always telling each other we're in mutant era at the moment. What do you think has changed? What are the biggest changes that are now explaining Pogačar and Vingegaard and Evenepoel that are doing things that are sex us at the moment that feel really alien to us? Is it like now that you can see it up closely? Is it like, are they physiologically different, or is it training or nutrition or technology?
No, they are the most talented. So like, I know people, it is nice when people say hard work beats talent. Not true. It's like just not true. Talent is required to be the top 1% of the 1%. And they're also more talented than everybody else, because there's guys in Conti teams working probably just as hard that can't crack the professionals. So number one, very talented riders. Two, year-on-year progression without crashes. So Van der Poel, when did he have to take 3 months off last? Was it when he
I think
fell
after
off
the Olympics.
mountain bike?
Yeah, with his back, I think. Yeah. But
so just
that
year-on-year progression, training. They're still young. Like Van der Poel's still, he's not that old. Pogačar's still, 27? Vingegaard's 28, 29. So... yeah, Remco was really, really talented, and then he also probably works just as hard as everybody else, gets the most support of the team. So he's the first person the coach is going to ring to see how's your training going, not the 30th guy. And this builds up over time. And same with Remco, thank God he's also been healthy for now a few years straight.
Yeah. And if you look at the tour from last year, we're big tour enthusiasts. I think you as well, that we just say it's the most important ride in a year.
It's the worst month of the year.
It's the best month of the year, or the worst.
It's so stressful.
The best of times, the worst of times, right?
Yes.
But from a data perspective, can you see where UAE beat you? Is there something that you could see in the numbers that you could really see, okay, they were just better than us? Or?
Yeah, Pogačar dropped Jonas on the uphill finishes.
It was
in week 2.
Yeah, and could you see it coming? Is that something that you can see coming then, if you're doing the analysis?
I knew it was possible because he did it in the Dauphiné.
Yeah,
but Hautacam, no, I didn't expect the gap to be so big. I expected the gap maybe. Expected case, the sort of relative gap that they had in the TT, which I think was a closer reflection of where they were at the time. I think Jonas was 30 seconds back on the 30-minute all-out, whereas Hautacam was 2 minutes. That wasn't expected.
Did you find some explanation afterwards?
Not really, to be honest.
Jonas was also surprised himself, right?
Yeah, maybe he just had a bad day. Maybe he was battling something that didn't manifest into an illness. That's not the case. We don't think that. That's not the explanation. But it's also it's a complex organism. Like I said at the start, you're dealing with incomplete information. That's why it is in a video game where you're like, okay, now you attack at these watts because your threshold says you should be able to do that.
I've seen you training. Now you take your gel and now you go.
You can push harder than this.
Yes.
Just push harder.
But seriously, with Pogačar, sometimes it feels like that. That they just they press a turbo button somewhere in the car and then it always happens. That's the problem, right? It feels so stable. That is
it is incredible how fast he goes with no upper body movement. And how different his riding style is. So, but it's credit to them. I mean, he got his ass beat 2 years in a row. They ripped up everything. They changed his bike fit. They changed how he was training. They changed his coach. They changed his nutrition. And he improved.
Yeah. It's amazing.
But it is like, I agree that he's very, very stable in the lower back and core when he's seated, accelerating, and other guys are out of the saddle behind him.
Yeah. And is there just out of curiosity, are there some riders that are very open to doing this analysis with you, that you send videos? There must be riders who are more open to doing analysis with data than others.
All riders, they're all open to it.
Yeah.
Normally.
Otherwise, you wouldn't cycle at Visma.
Riders want to improve.
All right, yeah, but it's funny that you say that, because we hear from other teams. We hear sometimes, I'm not calling names, but Carapaz maybe, or so some others are not really open to doing analysis like this, because there's always a debate between people who are saying this is about talent, this is about intuition, this is more, you shouldn't ruin the game by just looking at Ettalon watts all the time, and I guess there must be some pushback from riders.
No, I'm not saying the riders agree with what I'm saying 100% of the time, but the riders want to engage in how to get better.
Yeah.
And I think if you train, let's say Plus Recovery, they're training a 40-hour week when thinking about nutrition and all they have to do. 40-hour week, you're away from home 200 days a year. I think it'd be very strange that you then completely neglect your actual behavior in the events that you're peaking for.
Yeah.
And like I said, it's important to have the discussion. And the riders can say, no. What you can't see is that there's pressure on my right side from this rider. And I know that if I moved into that position, which you say is theoretically better, he's going to chop my wheel and I have a risk of crashing. So it's more about the riders buying in, the riders, them deciding, is this a good idea? Is this the plan? I can more help with, this is what has happened historically in these sort of races. In San Remo, the route doesn't change. And it's good. The riders have to buy into it. You can't top-down force riders to do a plan they don't believe in. It's pointless.
So you learned a lot more about tactics and rules, unwritten rules in the peloton from the riders.
Yeah, I guess. But to be honest, there's no unwritten rules like.
Not that much.
They don't exist. No.
Is there?
It's dog eat dog.
Yeah.
There was Carlis and Gabriel had a lot of hot takes in our show. One of them was Roglic can't bike, Ayuso can't climb, Del Toro is not a top climber. They were also basically saying Vingegaard will never catch up with Pogačar. We have to look at other riders. How are you looking at future talents? Are we waiting for someone to topple the Pogačar regime from outside of these people, or who are the challengers that you're seeing?
Well, Seychelles is obvious because he's done the best climbing performances for someone that young ever.
Yeah.
No teenagers ever climbed that fast. So it's the logical answer. I hope he's competitive. I don't know if he's doing the Tour this year. They haven't announced, but it would be fantastic to have, like, imagine having another Vingegaard at least level rider in the mix.
Yeah.
When there's three of them, and on Ventoux, for example, imagine Ventoux stage last year, Vingegaard attacks, stop, Pogačar follows, stops, then Saishas attacks.
Yeah.
I think it would make it even better. So that doesn't mean he gets the level of Pogačar. I think I don't see any rider where it's like obvious they're going to be as good as Pogačar is now, because across the whole year, especially because it actually never happened.
Yeah. And do you agree with them? What they're saying basically is that we shouldn't be looking at the current riders challenging Pogačar, but we have to look at the new generation who's coming.
Yeah, most likely it will be a new generation. I don't know if you include Saishas within that, I don't know, but that's what happened with Vingegaard.
Yeah.
He was like, did a couple of good stages as a domestique in the Vuelta, won copy the next year, and then got thrown in the Tour team and came second. Pogačar turned pro and then came third in the Vuelta with 3 stages. Like, it should happen really fast for the really... And Saishas is happening really fast. Remco happened really fast. I think marginal year-on-year progression that you get from like 10th in the Tour to 8th in the Tour, and then maybe you'll challenge Pog one day. I don't see that.
We gaan zo door met het gesprek, maar eerst even een woordje van onze sponsor.
En dat is vandaag Upway.
Yes, en die refurbishen fietsen.
Ja,
knappen ze op.
Opgeknapte tweedehands fietsen.
Goed voor het milieu.
Ja.
En heb jij zelf een mooie bolide onder je kont zitten. Ze hebben van allerlei fietsen, waaronder refurbished elektrische fietsen.
Oh, dat is leuk voor Frank, hè? Die doet alles op elektrische fiets.
Ja, zeker. Voor de snelle stadsfietser. Niet alleen goed voor je portemonnee, maar natuurlijk ook voor de wereld waar we in fietsen. Ik heb even gekeken. Ze hebben echt van alles. 10 Ways, Urban Arrows of fiets van de show. Canyon.
Kijk.
Zeker. En ze hebben ook allerlei fietsen in de aanbieding. Stadsfietsen, bakfietsen, elektrische fietsen. En je krijgt echt best wel een flinke korting. Of je bespaart eigenlijk een heleboel.
Tot 60% voordeliger dan de nieuwprijs.
Mm-hmm.
Omdat je elke fiets door professionele monteurs kan laten controleren. Fiets je met de zekerheid van 1 jaar garantie en heb je 14 dagen bedenktijd.
Ja.
Gebruik de code Lantaren125 voor €125 extra korting.
125 voor €125 korting.
Ja,
logisch.
Ezelsbruggetje.
Ja.
Voor een besteding vanaf €750. Dat is dus Lantaren 125 in hoofdletters.
Ja, klik op de link in de show notes en ontdek hoe jij jouw dagelijkse ritten een flinke upgrade kunt geven.
So we can also address you now as a neutral arbiter, but Remco Evenepoel, right? Everyone's looking at Remco Evenepoel in this part of the world. Do you expect him to join the ranks of Vingegaard and Pogačar on some point? It seems to be building slowly towards that, but it's still a bridge.
He should. He did in 24.
Yeah.
So I don't see he already did it before. So if he gets to his level again, he should be there.
And do you think there's a chance that on some point he will beat Pogačar?
In like a Liège or in the Tour?
In the Tour.
It's possible.
Don't give our Belgian friends too much hope. I mean,
I was the biggest Remco fanboy ever. So
yeah,
I'll always believe, but a few things are a little bit concerning so far this year. Yeah.
Right. Is there, and what would that be? Like, what are your concerns?
I read the article yesterday, like that. Maybe he's just saying nothing, but like him and Lipovic, there had been no discussion about how they were going to play Catalunya. I was like, but you're going to the Tour together.
Yeah.
So they didn't have a talk about tactics still.
Nah, maybe they had. Maybe he's just doing the press. I don't know, but I just was a bit surprised.
Yeah.
So I'm interested to see how the Lipovic Remco dynamic works.
Yeah.
It should be a positive. You have they're the two guys that podium the Tour behind Jonas and Pogačar.
If they work together.
Well, they already did that in consecutive years, and so then if they work together, it should be like it's a dream scenario. But I'm interested to see how it works.
Yeah.
And we need to wrap up. But I was curious, just if you look at the entire field of teams, we are all looking at Visma and UAE, of course. But is there one of the other teams that makes you jealous in some way, that you think, oh, they're doing this strategically very, very smart?
think Astana are pretty competitive across the year. I think they get the most out of their riders.
That's unexpected, Astana. I mean, you mentioned it a couple of times before.
They're third in the UCI ranking.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what their budget is, but it's not the top 5. So yeah, Astana are doing pretty well with their roster. Because also when you look at their roster, you think, is it that good?
Yeah.
The names. I think the way they built a sprint train for Malacelli. Who was Malacelli? He beat Milan this year because they have a really good leader, a really good plan. They put him in the right races. So yeah, I think Astana do some pretty good things.
Oh my God, we have to stop making jokes about Astana. That's new for us.
Oh, do you not believe the come up?
Well, it used to be this team that was always around, that was a little bit weird and using very strange tactics, signing very strange riders, and now suddenly they have a coherent plan. That's very.
Everyone's entitled to be skeptical. It is, but they are also doing things where it is rational. Where you're like, okay, they found the biggest human possible, and he's going to be the setup man for the lead out before Malacelli, Gleb Syriza. And then they're going to have a guy who's track pursuit, like junior world champion, do the lead out afterwards for Malacelli. And Malacelli, he cannot climb. He is so limited. But they're just going to put him in the Middle Eastern races and other races and high-speed sprints where he's really good.
That's really...
So that you can't be skeptical of. There is a plan there.
A very Moneyball approach, right? If you put it like that.
Oh, there's some signings where I was like, that's terrible. That's a waste of money. But more often on the established name riders, that they didn't give them the points return. When they actually signed the small names, they have overperformed. So, but yeah, I love the Moneyball approach is, it's nice. It's cool to take a rider like Anton Schiffer and see where he can go, but also, like you said, it's better to have the most money than to be the smartest. I think Man City had the most money, and if it doesn't mean you'll be successful. There's some teams that have had a lot more money injected and their actual results haven't improved that much. But
you're talking about Chelsea now, I guess.
I was talking about cycling actually, but
all right. But there.
One last thing before we go to the last question. I'm just curious. What is the biggest misconception about Jonas Vingegaard? We don't really get a grip on his character. He and it's his good, right? He keeps the media a bit of a distance.
That he's not. I think the biggest misconception is that he's not a racer like Pogačar, that he's part of the Visma, and I'm also obviously part of this misconception that it's like people with puppet strings and you're not allowed to take a bid on without it being planned before. That's just not the case. He wants to race, he wants to attack, he wants to show what he can do. We saw that in Paris-Nice. So, he really wanted to do Paris-Nice after he couldn't do UAE. He wanted to do it to race because he's been training all winter. I was like, skip Paris-Nice. It's too dangerous. You can crash like a Uso. Yeah. Just go train and then do the Giro. So that's, I think, a misconception. And because he does a lot of race days. I think the difference is Pogačar does actually less race days, but they're a lot more one-day races.
Will there ever be a moment that Vingegaard will join one-day races? We would really love that.
Maybe not. I did GP Denain before. Roglic did it with him, but...
What, Vingegaard did Denain?
Yeah, Vingegaard and Roglic did GP Denain before in 2022.
Well, that wasn't the first priority that we had, but sure, we'll take it.
Roglic was in the front group, actually.
But Patrick, to wrap this up, when we were talking to Gabriel and Carlis, and we asked them, has all the data made you love cycling more, or has it taken something away? And we got kind of an answer somewhere in the middle. I think they were telling us a little bit that they were getting kind of bored with the sport. How did data change your perspective on the sport?
I think it made me like cycling more, especially in my job, recruiting talents and trying to help Grisha with the signings. I think you have to use it, and I really enjoy looking at it. I still love scouring through a new rider or a prospective rider's power profile to see could they be a good option. But on the other hand, maybe if you're a lay person just watching cycling, you think, I don't know, he didn't do a stage race yet, but say Pogačar turned up at Tirreno Adriatico. You think, we could have a fight here. I just know based on the data, it is actually not possible for him to lose without a crash.
Mm.
So maybe the hope, but is that the data's fault or the lack of competitive balance in a lot of races?
Yeah.
I mean, a person who's never looked at power data before could also tell you Pogačar is pretty good and is going to win.
Mm.
Fair enough.
I think also you can, the data can give hope on the other hand where, Vingegaard going to the Tour de France, he has climbed. He has the potential to climb at that level, at Pogačar's level.
Mm.
And obviously we need to make it happen, but we know from the data.
Please make it happen, Patrick.
Listen, that'd be for neutrals, for everybody. If they were like 2022, that was a great Tour de France. 2022.
Yeah.
So I think it'd be great for the sport. And obviously we want to make it happen. Jonas, most of all, he wants to make it happen.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Patrick. We won't take more of your time. Are you going to the race now anytime soon again?
I'll go to Catalonia in the middle of the week when they come past my house.
Oh, yeah, of course. Of course.
Nearly past my house,
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing.
Thank you so much. So nice talking to you. Really enjoyed it.
Thanks
very much for having me on.
Dit was het.
Veel dank. Jullie hebben het Engels, het Australisch doorstaan.
Ja, ik zou zeggen vooral ons Engels eigenlijk.
Ja, inderdaad. Ons Steinkolen Engels. Veel dank allen. Ook onze sponsors van vandaag. Upway en NordVPN. En ook natuurlijk aan onze fiets van de show Canyon.
Ik heb een eerste ritje gemaakt, Tim.
En
Heerly de Peerly.
Heerly de Peerly.
Heerly de
Dat
Peerly.
is een aanbeveling.
Ja. Natuurlijk ook dank aan onze heimat, het is koers.nl. Je kunt ons nog steeds steunen of een berichtje sturen. Dat is extra leuk. Dat doe je via derodelantaarnpodcast.nl. Meedoen aan de voorspelbokaal, audioberichtjes achterlaten. En als vriend van de show krijg je exclusieve toegang.
Voor de Rode Lantaarn Babbelbox om live mee te praten tijdens de grote wedstrijden.
Ja, alle wedstrijden eigenlijk. We zijn er vrijdag weer na de E3-prijs. Live, echt gelijk in je eter, Benja, Frank en ik.
Zo.
Ja, dat is wel echt een heel goed trio.
Ja.
Volg ons ondertussen in je favoriete podcast-app of @de Rode Lantaarn op Instagram.
Zodat je niks mist.
A biento.
A biento.
I wish I could be in the south of France. In the south of France. Sitting right